Greetings and salutations, all you Washington football fans. We've got quite the show for you here on Ref the District, episode number 18. I'm Nathan. We've got the Stoner, and you'll see a couple new faces down here joining us for this podcast. You might not have, you might not recognize them because this, they typically are on the audio side of the house, but we're happy to have with us the Washington football team, the WFT Declassified podcast with us today. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen. Today's show, we're going to be going over, as we always do with the warm-up, we're going to be talking about all of our DC sports teams. And when we get to the game, we're going to be talking with Declassified on our 53-man roster and some of the things that we've talked about previously, like Trustin Rivera and whatnot. So you're going to want to stick around for that. Post-game, our man Stoner says that he's got a big old rant for our Capitals, so our Washington Capitals. So looking forward to seeing what he has for us when it comes to that. Let's get into our sports here with our warm up. We've had, I think there are games that are going on. It's a little hard to tell the way that they've ended up, but the Wizards, our Washington Wizards here, not exactly having the best of showing. I think there was a lot of excitement going into this. There's fans who are chanting, "We want Philly." I think the Wizards players, they even Westbrook was like, they are the number one seed for a reason, and they're showing it. And we're showing why that the lottery probably was a better spot for the Washington Wizards. But 3-0, we'll see if they can muster up and win one, or are they going to get swept? Do we have an idea? Do you think they're going to get swept? Is there anyone on this podcast that still has hope for the Washington Wizards?
I have hope, but
yeah, hope. That's about it. That's about all you can have right now is hope, because they have been thoroughly outclassed in these three games. They were in the first game for a little while, but the last couple games they haven't even been in them almost from the start.
Philly is just way better. Philly beat them, swept them regular season series, and I think Washington actually might have been better off with the 7 seed against Brooklyn, because they did pretty well against Brooklyn.
Yeah.
In the season series, they might have been able to get a game against Brooklyn, but Philly's they have no answer for Embiid. They haven't all year. Nothing's going to change. I mean, they may steal a game, maybe, but I doubt it.
Yeah, and Westbrook is hurt now. You could see, even though he had a triple-double yesterday, you can see he's not 100% right now with his ankle. He's not exploding to the basket like he did for that last month and a half of the season. So no, I don't give him any chance. They'll probably get swept out, and we'll be into the summer doldrums following last place Nats team. That's going to be really exciting. When does training camp start? That's all I want to know.
Not soon enough. The Nationals have had some rain delays, and that's put some back-to-backs. 7-inning games. I don't like it. I don't think it's great. Like this to me is just the worst thing that can happen in baseball right now. Is like just keep the 9 innings. Find a way to make it quicker. The Nationals not having good, like you mentioned, their last place. The Mystics have gone 1-1 against the Fever and then lose to the Sun. DC United lost to Philadelphia, but big bounce back for them. Okay, 3-0 against Miami just last night. So at least somebody in the DC Sports Network was having a good time. We do have the Washington Spirit, who are doing pretty well. They won against the Houston Dash. They play tonight, 7 p.m. against the OLL Reign. In case you're interested in the women's soccer. So we like to talk about our DC sports teams. So at least here in the warm up, most of our games are going to be centered around our Washington football team. But the warm up, we like to talk about what's going on with the DC sports area. So we think we're going to get swept. The Wizards are going to get swept against the 76ers. Doesn't sound like Stoner has any hope for our Nationals. Do we add any hope with the Declassified guys? They're only, 4.5 games back right now.
The National League East isn't very good, and it's probably going to be tight all year, so they could be in last place and 3 games out of first, in August. So you never know. And we always have 2019.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's it.
I'm an Orioles fan, so I don't care what happens to Nationals.
Go
O's!
But I would like to direct you toward the recent 3-game sweep that happened against those O's. I'll say this: that field is good. Like the Orioles baseball field is Camden Yards,
one of the best,
probably one of the better baseball parks in in the MLB. So
how have you gone
we'll give
through
you guys
life?
that.
How have you gone through life as a Washington and Orioles fan? That's what I want to know. That is just the worst combination.
I'm a loyal individual. You know,
I
it
just
speaks to
don't
my
get it.
integrity as a human being. I don't jump ship. That's how.
So
don't
you were an
understand.
Orioles fan before the Nationals got here,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the Nationals get here, and you're like, no, I'm loyal to the Orioles.
Yeah. Man, I remember the Orioles coming on TV back like when we first got cable. I don't know if you guys remember. It was a home team sports channel. It was HTS.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day. They used to show the Orioles games with like Cal Ripken, Brady Anderson, Mike Devereaux, guys like that. And as a kid, I played baseball growing up. So I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. This team is so good, even though they never won. And it was just like, it kind of stuck with me. And then the Nats came around, and I went to a couple of Nats games at RFK, and I was like, this doesn't do it for me. I love Camden Yards. I like the Orioles, the black and the orange and the whole thing. It's me, man.
I can appreciate not jumping ship. So that's actually something that I've been struggling with here as I'm in this area. I'm a transplant. My basketball team happens to be the Oklahoma City Thunder. But now the Wizards have Westbrook, and I've been watching them a lot here to be able to talk about them, somewhat intelligently. Hashtag just a fan. Here is our thing on Ref the District. And I'm kind of finding myself more in tune with the Wizards, but I'm like, I can't just leave my Thunder. That's my team. So
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You absolutely can do that. You can say it's loyalty, but your loyalty should be to the area, not necessarily the team. That's what I'm saying. If I told you my past, where my loyalties lie with some of my teams, you might be appalled. That's probably a podcast for another day. But no, this is your area. This is your town. You go for the whole town.
Yeah, I think a loyalty to the Wizards and to the Thunder can coexist because outside of twice a year, there's zero chance either of those teams is ever going to meet in the postseason. So I think you can safely live in both worlds. It's not like being a Steelers and Ravens or Washington Dallas. Those are my two teams. You can never have that. But I mean, you've got two teams in different conferences that are never going to sniff the finals. So hard truth. Hashtag hard truth. I think you can coexist peacefully with allegiance to both teams in that respect.
You're not helping, Eric. I'm trying to convert him. And you're not helping. I mean, you're giving him an out.
As far as NBA goes, so I grew up as a Hawks fan, actually. And the reason I was in Atlanta, and I've lived in Virginia my whole life, but the reason I liked the Hawks was because when I was a little kid and I first started watching basketball, initially, of course, it was the Lakers because, it was like 86, 87. It was, Lakers, Celtics. You had to pick one. But a kid and having school, you could never watch a Lakers game on TV except like maybe a Sunday afternoon on NBC. But we had, whatever local cable channel it was at the time had the Bullets at the time, but they were complete garbage. They were just terrible. And then you had Superstation TBS, which had every Hawks game, East Coast primetime, and you had Dominique Wilkins to watch. So I'm like, well, I'm going to watch this guy. I don't want to watch Jeff Malone. I want to watch, Dominique Wilkins. So I grew up as a Hawks fan. And then, gradually, every game became national. You could watch pretty much every game you want. So I kind of fell off from the Hawks, and I kind of stopped watching basketball for a while anyway. So I've kind of adopted the Wizards in the past few years, past like 10 years or so. Once they got rid of those awful blue uniforms with the teal and gold, just the worst. They should, But once that went away, I was like, all right, we'll go ahead and be Wizards fan. I can do that again.
As a Thunder fan, there's some pretty bad uniforms out there in Oklahoma City. So, I'm very similar. I grew up mostly in the 90s. And so kind of, MJ, the Bulls, loved them. But when I came into my own as an adult, I didn't really have a team. Ended up stationed out in Oklahoma, which is where I was born anyways. And when the Thunder moved there, so they started 3-29 the one season, ended up winning 20, went 20-30 the rest of the season, and I was just like, these guys are going to be something special. And they really were. Green was actually my favorite of the trio. So Durant, if you guys remember, it was Durant, Green, and Westbrook, and I was just like, Green's my man.
You guys had Harden for a while too, didn't you?
Shipped away. Yeah, Harden. That's a sore subject. Thanks for bringing that.
No problem.
How do you not win with Harden, Westbrook, Durant, Serge Ibaka, Jeff Green? How do you not win with that?
LeBron James.
Two words: Scotty Brooks.
Scott Brooks.
Scotty Brooks. Scott
The
Davis,
evidence is
right
here
there.
now.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Westbrook's made it a little bit easier, and I think that's probably one of the bigger things is that making that transition to liking the Wizards instead of just watching them has been Westbrook. So definitely one of my favorite players to watch, and looking forward to this upcoming season if he sticks around and doesn't get traded.
I need
to going into.
I need to say something about Westbrook that I think people haven't come to realize yet.
Uh-oh.
No matter what happens in this series, Westbrook was still the right move in terms of trading John Wall. John Wall's done nothing in Houston. He hasn't won there. People got to let it go, man. Like, he wasn't going to win here. I know he carried us into the playoffs a couple years, but where'd that go? Where'd it go?
Yeah.
You were stuck with a player who had a $200 and something million, $50 million deal or something like that. That just, it wasn't working. It had never worked. I'm glad he brought us back to relevancy, but it was time to move on. And Westbrook, here's the other thing that people don't take into consideration with Westbrook. Westbrook has a lot more friends around the league than John Wall does. So when it comes to free agency, you have a much better chance of getting a better top-tier free agent with Westbrook than you did with John Wall, including playoff P. And maybe you don't want that guy because he's not really killing it PG down in LAC, but it'd be an upgrade over who's our three right now? I mean,
Rui. Well, you got Rui or
Rui plays
or Rui's
four.
a four,
So
yeah.
it would be Denny,
Bertans, Matthews, Neto.
Yeah, they start 6 guards at a time. Somehow they manage to wedge every guard on the team into the court at the same time.
Right.
They're not any good. That's the most frustrating part. It's like, as bad as Scott Brooks has been as a coach, like when you look at the team that's around Beal and Westbrook, they're just not good. I have hopes that Rui can turn it around, but then he has games like last night where it's just like he's just another player. Like, he reminds me a little bit, I think, of Serge Ibaka in the sense that Serge was always one of these players that was like almost there. Jeff Green was a step below that, where it was just like an occasional player that you can count on. And I think Rui's more of that person that's going to be like occasionally.
Yeah,
like he's going to
Wizards.
Be,
you think Otto Porter?
That's exactly what he is.
I mean,
Serge Ibaka has a role, and that's defense, right? Like, so at least if nothing else, you're going to get defense and block shots with Serge Ibaka. What are you going to count on with Rui? It doesn't exist, and that's the problem. Eric and I talk about this on our podcast too, like positionless players. He's kind of one of those. Like, what are you going to fall back on with Rui that you say he shows up to the arena, I'm going to get this every single night? There's no such thing. Same thing with Otto Porter, like Eric just mentioned, and the small forward, what was the guy's name? Kelly Oubre. Like, we keep drafting the same dude over and over and over again, hoping it's going to work.
It's going to work sometime, Ellie. It's got to work.
Right? But then we got Denny Avdia this year.
Same.
What did he do? This is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what this philosophy is of drafting players without a specialty and just hoping it works out. You're not going to draft Luka 2 years or 2, 3 years, whatever it is, right? Luka comes around once every generation, right? They're trying to hit that, draft after draft, and they keep failing because right? Like, find a guy like a Nerlens Noel who blocks shots and plays defense, that know what he does every day when he shows up. And if you get offense, it's a bonus. Our front court is miserable right now, right? And we got Rui, who is good at a lot of things, great at none, like jack of all trade players. They don't work in the NBA, right? Unless they're like
not as starters.
Thank you.
Not off the bench.
That's a
you
role
get him as
player.
a sixth man. You get him off the bench. His thing is, I liked him coming out of college. I was actually happy when they drafted Rui. He's not assertive, and he doesn't impose his will. Like, he just passes up way too many shots. Sometimes he's not willing to create his own shot, and then sometimes he just goes and dunks on 3 people. It's just frustrating to watch because, like, when he decides to be a good player, he can be that guy. He just doesn't have that mentality. It doesn't appear that he wants to be that third cog in the big three.
Can he develop though?
No,
because he's only played about 100
barely
games?
Played 82. Yeah, he just hit 82 games this season, like later this season.
There's no hope.
And my big thing is, like, one of the things they talked about him 2 months ago was he could guard 1 through 5, and I just haven't seen that pretty much since they started talking about it.
I can guard 1 through 5. It's just a question of how well I can do it.
But look,
You can put me out there. I'll guard anybody. That doesn't, it might not work out well.
We left
I don't
one
know,
of them-
because as far as development with Rui, it's hard to say because of the mentality. If the mentality is there, if he's aggressive and just not, making shots or not being not a good player yet, but he's aggressive, then yeah, I would say you could develop that. But he's got all the skill, but the mentality doesn't seem to be there. So I don't know if that's something you can develop, especially at the NBA level. And he's an older young player. I mean, he's in his 20s already. He's not like he was a 4-year player at Gonzaga. So I don't know if how much he's going to develop as a player. I think he may just be what he is. And I still think he can be a quality NBA player. It's just you got to find the role, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be starter.
You said it, Eric. When he decides to be good. If you have to decide to be good, you're not good, and you're not going to be good in the NBA. The players that are the greatest are the ones that don't need to make that decision when they get out of bed because it's already made for him. I'm going to be great today. He's not that. He's passive. Troy Brown, we forgot about that dude. Another one of those guys.
He was the direct descendant of Otto Porter. Yeah, he was the next.
yes. It's in the Bible. It's like Nebuchadnezzar beget this person, Otto Porter beget Troy Brown, Troy Brown beget Rui Hachimura. It's a never-ending cycle. Stop drafting threes. Start looking at big men.
I was really surprised that that people were sad when Troy Brown left.
Oh,
that was like one of
those guys.
Who, right? Because it's just like I'm seeing these tweets. I'm like, oh, we shouldn't have given up on him. He just never had the chance. I was just like, have you not watched the games? Like, have you not seen like him actually in the games? Like, yeah, it's a mess for Washington. It'll be interesting to see how they develop. I'm hoping that a new coach can maybe instill some of that, a little less of the ISO play, a little bit more ball movement. We'll see. It'll be a long off season for them. We're currently in the off season for our Washington football team. We're going to be talking about them here in the game with Declassified here on Ref the District coming up. Game on here with WFT Declassified podcast on Ref the District. Guys, you obviously got your podcast is centered around the Washington football team, and I'm going to encourage our subscribers, the people who come out here for Ref the District, to go hit up you guys. I know you're on Spotify, you're on Amazon, you're on Apple. Check them out, even on Twitter. You can find them. We interact with them all the time at Ref the District and at Ellie. Can you hit us up with that Twitter handle real quick?
Absolutely. It is at Declassified WFT. And also Eric is on Twitter lighting things up, man. One of the funniest guys out there at ETROD 42 in the Twitterverse. Check him out. Follow
My
him.
followers have grown exponentially, as we put it last week. Gone from like 4 to
What's
like
the 4-2
15.
stand
It's
for?
amazing.
he's at 30. Don't let him lie.
Oh, I'm at 30.
On your way up.
I'm at 30. I didn't even know. I'm like a Kardashian now.
You got to get to 42. That's your number. Yeah. Is 42? Is there a specific reason for 42? Like the Stoner here is the Stone Dog 23. So, and I think everybody can probably imagine what 23 is. So, but 42.
42 was my first football number, and it was also available. And it's my Gmail. Yeah.
So let me guess, with the number 42, that was your football number. Were you you were a fullback?
That year, I was a linebacker.
I was going to say linebacker.
I was a 130-pound linebacker that eventually got moved to defensive end. And somehow, and I didn't pick 42. It was there when the third stringers were picking numbers. It happened to be there. So it's not like I was a giant Charlie Taylor or Jackie Robinson fan. It just happened to be that it was there. It was the best one. It was like 42.
Did you even choose, or was it just the person handing out jerseys that day just tossed you?
It was the best available. It was like 42 or 39 or 78. So I was like, well, let me Let me find.
130 pounds. What
That
year
was
was
ninth
that?
grade.
What grade?
Ninth grade.
Ninth grade?
My first
130
time.
pounds in ninth grade?
Yeah, my first
And they're
time
moving
playing.
you from linebacker to defensive end? That seems like the reverse way you should have
Well,
been
it was
going.
my first year playing football, and I hadn't quite found out yet how terrible of a football player I was. And they were trying to move me around because I would. So the JV coach at the time had been my track coach the prior year, and he loved me, so he didn't want to lose. He didn't, he kept me around, which was nice. But he just couldn't find a good spot for me. So I ended up settling in. And this was early 90s, and we were a wishbone team. But we kind of evolved a little bit by my 10th grade year. We started using a wide receiver. So that's what I moved to. And I ended up playing wide receiver for the rest of my high school years.
Nice.
Never got any better. I wasn't very good. But
That's not true.
I did have a position.
I want to break some news to your audience here.
Oh, breaking news.
Eric and I won a championship at flag football in an indoor league. Did we not, Eric?
Did win a championship.
Yes.
We did.
Yes.
What were you playing then?
I was the jack of all trades guy because I was the oldest guy on the team and the fattest guy on the team. So I was like, well, you need a center this week? I can snap. You need a kicker? I can kick. I can step in and play quarterback at a pinch. Is pretty much wherever you want to put me is what I would do. And it was. Do we want to drop a team name on him because we'll blow your mind with the team name?
Oh, what was the name?
Greatest. It was the greatest team name ever. I don't think you could ever beat it. You want to tell him, Ellie? Do you remember?
You hit him with it.
Bearcat, Gator, Shark, Raptors. That was our team name.
You just had to get everybody's
Couldn't
favorite
decide.
team.
Yeah, we couldn't decide what the coolest animal was, so we just go with all of them.
Just
Bearcat, Gator, Shark, Raptors.
Eric,
no spaces either, right?
Bearcat,
It's just all
Gator,
one,
Shark,
just
Raptors,
one
yep.
word.
with bright orange shirts.
Bright orange.
Nice.
That's good. That's actually one of my flag football jerseys behind me. We didn't amount to much. We lost in the finals, but some fun times there. I'm on the line or playing linebacker, so those are my roles. Le, what position were you? We got the jack of all trades on the Gator Shark Raptors. What position did you end up playing?
I was quarterback for a lot of the season. I played wide receiver, and I did some defensive end, and I did well at all of them, right? And I did DB too. Had a couple pick sixes in there.
He was the heart and soul of the team.
Nice.
I was the glue. I was the fan favorite, as you would call me. I was like, look at him. He made a catch. Look at that guy.
Oldest man on the team. He didn't break himself, folks. He didn't break himself. We're good to go.
I was a good 10 years older than everybody out there too. Yeah. I was already in my 40s, I think, when we played that.
He's a heck of a basketball player. He's being humble. He's a great athlete. He's a heck of a basketball player too.
Yeah.
Stoner made him a name for himself on the hoop scene, especially when we're out in Germany together. He dragged me out there a couple times. I've got a significant height advantage on Stoner, and he still gets picked way before me. But that's just because when we were talking about position players for basketball, I'm 6'3". I've got some serious lanky arms. I'm the guy who just fouls the crap out of people when they get near the basket, and I block shots and rebound. That's my role. I know it. I kick anytime the ball comes into me, because you're playing pickup basketball. They don't know me. They just see a big guy playing around in the paint. So they'll pass me the ball, and I'll kick it right back out to them. Like, okay. And they're like, no, just drive it to the basket. No.
Hey, it's
6'3", the world's worst layup.
It's like
but Stoner.
we were talking.
Stoner's probably a better 3-point shooter than Bertans.
Oh man.
Oh, I can drain them. They used to call me JJ because at that time JJ Redick was big at Duke, and so they used to call me JJ but that's all I can do. That's all I was. I'm that guy who just.
You're the YMCA game guy. You got the
that's
YMCA
me.
game.
That's exactly me. I just sit out there at the line and wait for somebody to kick it to me.
Yeah,
and that's all I can do.
His version of cherry picking was just standing at the 3-point line, waiting for the defense to finish their thing, and then he'd just be like, "All right."
But you know what? I drain them.
I would
drain them. But
you got your role. You are not a positionless player. You are.
That's right. Just like you guys
role.
were talking about.
Craig Hodges.
I have my burgundy and gold KD 3s, and they still don't have much scuff on them because. Again, I rode the bench most. I actually, when I played in Oklahoma, on the intramural team that we had there, I fouled out with less than a minute of game time play. Like that was my role. They were like, okay, go in there. Anytime they drive to the basket, just knock them down. I was like, okay, I can do that. I was actually surprised. One of them, I could have fouled out earlier, but the ref didn't call the foul. I mean, I like straight forearm to the back. Like I was just like, boom, like didn't call it on me. I looked at the ref like,
he was too shocked.
No, all right,
like,
if that's how we're going to do it.
He was so shocked he couldn't even blow his whistle. He had no breath.
Yeah, I won't be making any basketball teams. I probably won't make any NFL teams, but we do have the 53-man roster that is light years away, it seems, for us. But I do want us to take a little crack at it, and we got some names on here that really put some question on our coach, and that's the first thing I want to ask our friends here, Ellie and Eric. Do you trust the team that Ron Rivera is putting together right now?
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I do. Not a huge fan of quarterback. The addition of Fitzpatrick has drawn some ire on the Declassified podcast. I'm not totally against it. I kind of know what they're going for. I just it's more, and again, it's another Lake Seastrunk thing for me, where I'm more irritated at like the fan base for thinking that he's going to turn into Tom Brady at age 38, where he's probably going to be the same guy he's been his entire career. But from a team building standpoint, it's pretty clear that Ron Rivera wants a certain type of player. He wants a certain type of attitude, and he's developing that. And he's got guys that are going to work really hard. And it's not just a lunch pail team. It's a team that has some real talent at real spots. It's just going to come down to quarterback. And I've said repeatedly on the podcast, and we both have, that we're most likely going to see all three quarterbacks at some point next year. Fitzpatrick, Heineke, and Allen are most likely going to all get playing time. So it just depends on who, if one of them can step up and if they can get some kind of consistent quarterback play. I do like the chances of repeating as division champs and getting back into the playoffs. I do like that, and I like the roster that he's building. Pass that Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it. The only questions I have, Eric, you nailed it. But the thing I think you left out was the offensive line. You let Moses walk. Hey, guys, hate him if you like. That's your business. I thought he was okay. I thought he was a starter in the NFL, and we let one go. So we're gonna see about Cosme real quick. We call him the Cosme Kid on the Declassified podcast. That's what he is, the Cosme Kid. He's gonna have to play. He's got to play well. The one thing that I want people to understand is that last year's free agency class played well, including Cornelius, Lucas, guys like that. I'm happy about that. But it is not statistically smart to assume that he's going to play at that level again, because he never had in his career consistently prior to last year. And they're banking on the same thing. Exactly what Eric said with Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick, throughout his career, has been one thing. It is not intelligent to assume that he's going to automatically become something else. You cannot, when you start banking on anomalies, you start banking on losing, because you're going to be wrong about that more often than not. That's all we want. We want people to have perspective. Be the super fan. Be crazy about it. We're going to do that when the season starts. We're all in. But when we're talking about projecting wins and things like that, we can't just start jumping out the window because Fitzpatrick is now in burgundy and gold. Same Fitzpatrick that was in Miami, Buffalo, all these other stops. He didn't play on like 10 different teams because he was great. Like, let's keep that in mind, right? Perspective matters. So that's the only thing I'll add to that conversation.
Yeah, I think that Rivera's earned some trust from us, so we do need to stick by him. But I want to make some decisions for him today and cut down to the 53-man roster. Can you guys help us out with that?
Absolutely. Speculation is my thing,
That's right. This is the ultimate speculation.
All right, so QB. We have Fitz, Heineke, Allen. You mentioned all three of them going to see play time. Is Montez in this? Is he going to be around practice squad again? Is he even eligible for the practice squad? This guy feels like a 35-year-old rookie at this point.
Are they still doing the COVID like extra player roster thing?
I'm not sure, right?
Yeah, if so, then yes. If not, I'll defer to Eric.
Yeah, Montez, he may be a practice squad guy. I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to be more than that. Maybe if he, crack a third string as a quarterback. Looking at his tape, I think they were kind of banking on like the anomaly, like the Josh Allen, because that's the kind of like imposing physical presence he is with the rocket arm and the mobility and all these things. But Josh Allen is not something that normally happens. Guys don't go from 50% passers to 65% passers on a regular basis. So if that's what you're banking on with Montez, then you are not going to be correct on that one. So,
You
I
won't
think
be happy with the end results.
Yeah, he may stick around on the practice squad, but I don't see much more unless there's like a rash of injuries at quarterback.
I will say this too, like, you have Heineke and you have Fitzpatrick. Why do you need Kyle Allen? Take a chance on Montez if you think he can do something athletically and just keep him as a third quarterback and try to develop him, because you don't have a young quarterback on the roster. Heineke's older than Marcus Mariota, right? Who's been in the league for a while. Fitzpatrick, we know, is older than Jesus, right? And then we have Kyle Allen's been around for, I mean, I guess he could be your quote unquote young quarterback, but I think he's 26, 27 too.
Yeah,
so
he's in that age group.
if you want to take a chance on somebody, I mean, you got two of them already that are going to play. Take a chance on Montez if you think he's going to be something. Otherwise, to get rid of him, because there's no point in having him here.
Yeah, I just think it's about winning. The best chance to win this year, because Fitzpatrick has proven that he's going to get benched at some point, and Heineke has proven he's probably going to get injured at some point. So if it comes down to, like, you need a quarterback and you need to win, are you going to go with Allen or are you going to go with Montez? And Ron Rivera likes Kyle Allen. I don't know why.
Kyle Allen doesn't win, so it doesn't.
I mean, Allen but he gives you the best chance to win. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what he sees in Allen, other than...
I think it's the same thing he sees in Heineke and Fitzpatrick. They all have moxie, right? So I remember, Allen ran for a first down, and he's looking at the camera and he's like doing the point thing. So I think that's what he likes about these guys, is that they're spirited, they love football. You're right, none of them are good. In fact, Stoner, you agreed that Heineke's going to see play. Mm-hmm. Sometime during the season. What game do you think Heineke's going to come in and start for the Washington football team?
Well, we always like to talk about that bye week, right? Which is week 8 or week 9, somewhere around there.
9,
yeah, week 9, that bye week. They're gonna be 4-4, and Fitzpatrick's gonna be doing average stuff to below average stuff. Like you said, that's who he is, and he's not gonna all of a sudden become this great quarterback. And that's when we're gonna see Heineke, which is a sad state of affairs, because there is so much talent everywhere else except for the most important position. But Allen sticks around, like you guys said, because he's a Ron Rivera guy, right? Or Allen, yeah, Ron Rivera loves him. The same way that Jay Gruden loved Colt McCoy. He always kept him around year after year. But when it came time for him to actually start, for whatever reason, injury or performance, he never wanted to do it. He didn't trust him that much. He just trusted him in the quarterback room, on the practice field, helping the starters out. And I think that's all that Kyle Allen is. He doesn't have the skill set to lead a really good team into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think he showed that last season. And as far as, though, I will have to disagree with you there, Stoner. I think that he does like him starting, because he played him in Carolina and then immediately went to him last season when Haskins was a bust. And so I think that...
Well, I don't think he wanted to, though. It was out of necessity.
Well, he certainly didn't want to go to Alex Smith. So, but that ended up helping right the ship for them. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I do think it's just they keep the 3, the Fitz, the Heineke, Allen, Montez. If he can hit the practice squad, we'll hit there. I think, to Ali's point here, Fitz has been on that many teams for a reason. He's not a world beater, but he has had some good seasons, and I think that he can have one of those good seasons here. Now, he as well as the other two have oft been injured, and I think that's where it's going to be interesting. And I really hope it doesn't turn disastrous for Washington, is the fact that you're going to lose, each of these to injury at some point, and we're going to have to pick up some guy off the street, because that would really be a disaster for Washington.
Nathan, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
He's had a good season by what standard? Has he had a good season by Aaron Rodgers standards?
No, that's
Has
MVP
he had a good
level.
season? But has he had a good season by, let's say, Cam Newton standards?
No, because Cam Newton's best season would have been an MVP season as well.
What tier quarterback has Ryan Fitzpatrick had a good season based on? A Joe Flacco?
Yes, right? Like a tier 3 QB.
Don't let up on this pressure. Keep it going.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Perspective matters. Like we do this a lot with players. We say he really hasn't had a great season in the NFL. If you go back and look,
I didn't say great. I said good.
That's fair. That's
service.
fair.
Like when you're looking at good, right? So you're looking at You have elite quarterbacks, which are like, you have 3, right? Maybe 5. You can go to 5. Then you have great quarterbacks. That's probably your, from 5 to 10 to 12 range. And then you have your good quarterbacks, which are like your middle tier. And that's where I'd put Fitzpatrick, is he's like 15 to like 20, in that range. And then you have the all others, which are people struggling.
And that's not good.
I think 15 to 20. Like, I think that if he has that type of season for Washington, that person who might be in that 15 range, maybe even gets to 12, one of the top 12, statistical seasons for Washington with the defense, I think that's good enough.
Good enough for what?
Playoffs. That's
good
a
enough
playoff
for
run.
The first round exit. That's what we had with Kirk Cousins that year. We had a good enough quarterback to get you to the playoffs and then flame out as soon as he ran into Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know. I think this team at this point is past that. This team, I honestly think that the window with the additions they've made this year, if healthy, the window is open now. And I don't know that Fitzpatrick is the guy. And I could be wrong. He could turn into like Rich Gannon was that one year where he just came, he was 62 years old and just decided to be a great quarterback. All of a sudden, he just got into the right system. So maybe Scott Turner's system is exactly what Ryan Fitzpatrick has needed since 2005 to become a great quarterback. So we'll see, but I'm not going to count on it.
Yeah, I'm just, out of the 3, I think that Fitzpatrick is Washington the best chance, and I think that he's capable of that. And I like Taylor Heineke. I think there's the kid has some moxie, but I just don't see him being able to stay healthy for 16, 17 games now. So.
Well, here's another question that I have for these guys that, Fitzpatrick is not your future. Your window is open now, as you said. Next year, let's assume they do a wild card or first round exit, whatever. So they're picking around in the same spot. What are you going to do next year at quarterback? How are you going to find that guy, that top 10 quarterback, in order to get you to the next level? Because you're not going to draft him at 19. You're going to have to give some guys up, or what are they going to do?
So let me go. You know what I'm going to. All right, I'm trying. You're right. So here's the mistake I think we made this year, and I'm glad you asked this question. If you were going to get a rookie quarterback, this was the year to do it, right? Because now you're going into year 4, this is year 2, but you're going into year 3 next year of Rivera's situation. Our window is not closing, but the NFL windows are like 3 years of time, basically, right? Because every single season you play with a good defense, you're in regression from the year prior. Defenses don't historically get better over time. Players get more expensive, players get older, your team starts to regress. So your window's open now in 3 years. You're going to be further into that window next year. Are you going to bring a rookie quarterback into that environment next year? And if you don't do it next year, you're not going to the organization's not going to draft a rookie quarterback in Ron Rivera's lame duck year in year 5, assuming he has a 5-year deal. So this year was the only year that you realistically could have brought a rookie quarterback in and said, okay, we're going to develop him and let him start the next season. To me, that's out the window. So now it has to be a veteran. But who's going to be available, next year? I mean, every year decent quarterbacks come available. I felt like they jumped on Ryan Fitzpatrick as soon as free agency started. And I was like, take a minute, see what's out there a little bit, because, you don't know what's available via trade. It might be the same thing next year too. I don't know, but I feel like you have to go the veteran route. But what veterans are we going to get next year? So I was hoping they would spend a little draft capital, get a quarterback this year, sit him down. Kellen Mond, any of the other guys that were out there. We talked a lot about this. Kyle Trask, even somebody that you were, that had some pedigree that you were going to just see if they can develop, because it's so weird with NFL windows and how quickly they close. And we're just talking about a playoff window, right? Like, let alone a Super Bowl window, which is generally 1 to 2 years, right? Because, look at Drew Brees. How many Super Bowls has he played in? Like 2? And I think he's won 1, right? Aaron Rodgers has only won 1 Super Bowl. These are all-time greats. That tells you about NFL windows. They don't stay open very long. And when that window closes on you, it's a long road to get back to that window being open again. So I felt like we should have been more aggressive addressing that position.
Yeah, I think next year, you have to go, like Ellie said, you got to go veteran. they really tried to go veteran this year. They tried to get Matthew Stafford. They tried to get Jared Goff. They tried to get whoever they tried to get. They didn't want to come here. And I think that depending on how this year shakes out, I think you're more inclined to, you're a little bit more of an attractive destination for a trade, for somebody to request a trade to next year. This year it was, you got a pretty good defense and you've got Terry McLaurin. Now you've got, a good defense. You've got Terry McLaurin. You've got another year of experience for Antonio Gibson. You've got Curtis Samuel. You got a young hotshot, Danny Brown. You've got a lot more weapons. You've got what hopefully will be a steadier offensive line in front of you. So I think that if some quarterbacks, and you're going to see a lot more of this stuff that like Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson are doing, where they're going to start wanting to pull the strings for the organization and they're going to force their way out. So somebody like that may come available. Aaron Rodgers' situation may not be resolved next year. Deshaun Watson's situation may not be resolved next year.
If Rodgers plays this season, his contract with Green Bay is up. So that is somebody we have one of our live listeners calling for Rodgers. That could be a potential situation where, again, if Rodgers plays, he plays out his contract, doesn't sign with Green Bay. I think Washington would be an attractive spot for him. I don't know that that's where he would end up, and I don't know how that situation with Green Bay is going to play out either. But that would certainly keep that window active for a little bit.
He's also going to be, 40 next year? 39 or something like that?
38, yeah. Another guy to look for, and I said this early in the offseason, Ellie laughed at me, so I'll give you guys the opportunity to laugh at me. Somebody's going to be available next year is Matt Ryan, who I know Ellie doesn't like because he's not mobile. But I like Matt Ryan as a quarterback. His decision-making is good. And he's, not the most mobile guy, but he does know what to do with the football. And Ron Rivera's got a lot of experience with him. And his contract, they renegotiated this year. It's going to be untenable next year. They're going to have to do something with him. So he could be available next year as well. And like I said, Deshaun Watson, if, however that plays out, that could be an option. There's a lot of options that for veteran quarterbacks, I think that will be around next year. So we'll see. And then there's always Andy Dalton.
Now that one we'll laugh at you about.
Yeah,
that one we're not even. I'm not even going to even entertain the idea of the Red Rocket there.
He's like the fallback school of quarterbacks.
He's like the Ryan Fitzpatrick of quarterbacks, right?
Exactly. If I don't get into Yale, I can always go to New
Mexico State.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, moving on to some of those skill positions that we brought up here that are a little bit better this year than last year. Let's talk about our running backs. Who do you think Washington's going to keep for running backs? You got Gibson, McKissick, and Barber from last year. Lamar Miller still retained by the team. That's a name. No additions through the draft, but an undrafted free agent with Patterson, and then Jonathan Williams as well. How many are they keeping? Who are they sticking with this season? We'll start with Stoner. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be obviously Gibson, McKissick are on this team. Those are no brainers. I think it's going to be Patterson's going to be your third down back, a la Chris Thompson from a couple years ago, and then the other two guys don't make it. It isn't. You said Peyton Barber.
Peyton Barber, Lamar Miller, and Jonathan Williams are the other running backs currently listed.
Those guys are
on the
Jags.
roster.
They're just another guy. They're solid, but they're not going to bring anything for you. So I think it's going to be those three. Maybe one of them hangs around in addition, like a Peyton Barber. But I think it's just those three. What do you guys think?
Lake Seastrunk.
We're bringing him back. Lake Seastrunk. And Roy Halou is the other guy. We're bringing Roy Halou and Evan Royster. We're going 2011 all over again.
Halou of 14 catches in a game, right?
We talked about that. He was another guy kind of ran it on last week.
Who was the guy that was weightlifting and dropped the barbell on his eye or whatever? He was supposed to be out. He was out of USC. Do you remember that guy?
Yeah, Stephen Jones, Stephen something. It was like he had the same name as that receiver from Buffalo. I think it was. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Everybody thought he was going to be the next running back star, but
Steve Johnson.
Yeah,
Steve
Johnson.
Yeah.
I think who's going to make the team? I think honestly, Gibson's going to be here. I think Lamar Miller's probably out because I just don't know what he brings to us. Like he's not effective anymore. Jarrett Patterson probably squeezes his way onto the roster. McKissick. I think Barber is still here. And I think you keep 4. And then, maybe you put a Jonathan Williams on the practice squad if he has eligibility. But I think Rivera was pretty high on Barber when they brought him in. And he coached against him in the NFC South. Rivera's a loyal guy. I don't think he's going to bring Barber in and then send him packing, this year for no reason, even though I don't think he's effective on the field. So my guess is you're going to see a similar split, too, in carries this year. Like, you might get Gibson more involved in the passing game since he basically wasn't at all last year. But I think you're going to see Gibson's going to lead us in touches, but Barber's not going to be somewhere, Barber's probably going to get, 3 to 5 touches a game, depending on situation and scenario. And then you got McKissick's going to get a couple out of the backfield, and he's going to get a lot of receptions. The question is, what happens with Patterson? Is Patterson good? We've talked about this a lot, but he's kind of a one-dimensional runner. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of dynamics to his game. So can he find a way to be effective being one-dimensional in the NFL? It's certainly possible. Is it, is it going to happen? We don't think so.
It's worked for Peyton Barber.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think that
actually comps to Peyton Barber pretty well.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes down to. And I do agree with you, LE, that Barber's the one who ends up on the roster. So I think that Gibson, McKissick, 1 and 2. I think they're only going to keep 3, and then they're going to stash Patterson on the practice squad because he's a rookie and they can. And this guy was undrafted. And as you mentioned, his game is he's small and he's a powerful, running back for those short yardage. But they have Peyton Barber, so unless Patterson shows something, during the preseason, during these OTAs, that he can take over that, they're going to go with the vet who they know that they can, they can't really trust him because Peyton Barber too many times ran into the back of that line on the short yardage, but that's who they're going to give it to, right? That's who I think will be there.
I think that if Patterson shows he can do what Barber does, he will edge Barber out because Ron Rivera has made it pretty clear this offseason that he's more interested in youth than he is in experience. He brings guys in that he wants to play now, that he thinks he can give time to. So I think if Patterson proves himself, then I see no reason why he doesn't make the team over Peyton Barber.
That's fair. And to Patterson's credit here, the lone undrafted free agent that Washington went after, and so maybe that speaks volumes for what they think because they actually traded away draft picks for next year to make sure that they could get guys like Cheeseman, and
don't hate on don't get me started on Cheeseman. That's my base now. That's my guy.
He has to be our guy because there's no other long snapper on the team, so we can check his spot off, right? There's no competition. But no, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think Patterson will definitely be one of these guys that we fall, the fans fall in love with during the preseason, and really, really want and push. And then, to me, feel sad or they'll be upset when he gets stashed on the practice squad because they're going to be like, oh, some other team's going to pick him up, and then no other team's going to pick him up. It happens every year. Fans get too attached. All right, moving on to our other ones, wide receivers. You got McLaurin, Samuel, the guys you two talked about very recently, and De'Ami Brown. You got Terry Brown. You got DeAndre Carter, Gandy Golden, Harmon, Humphreys, Milne, Cam Sims, everybody's first cut, Steve Sims Jr., and Isaiah Wright.
Well, I got a question here because I listened to your guys' podcast from last week when you were breaking down De'Ami Brown. Right, which, by the way, was an excellent breakdown. I was very in tune, I really listened to what you guys had to say about that. It was an excellent breakdown. But my question is, Eric, I think you said that you expected somewhere between 55 and 65 catches and about 650 yards. And Ellie, I think you agreed with him. That was about what you expected. The only thing I wonder about that is how is he going to get? I think if he gets that many catches, either something has gone terribly wrong or something has gone terribly right, meaning they have the world's greatest offense if he gets that many catches, or a bunch of guys got hurt. Because if you've got McLaurin and Samuel probably getting at least 180 catches between them, and you got Logan Thomas with his 70 catches, McKissick and Gibson with their catches, and those are just your starters, you're up to over 300 catches already. And now you add De'Ami Brown, who's going to have 55 or 65. This is going to be a career year for Fitzpatrick if we're going with that.
Well, the three-headed monster.
He's the future GOAT, of course. Yeah. He's the next Tom Brady.
That's right. I mean, so are you guys really
180 catches between McLaurin and between the McLaurin and Samuel? I think is a little aggressive. I think if the offense is working the way it should be, I think all three of those guys would be in the 50 to 70 catch range, apiece. If everything works right.
You don't think McLaurin's going to be one of those guys that's going to have 105 catches?
I don't know that he's going to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that he is. I think that Scott Turner is going to want to spread the ball around. If you've got that many weapons, there's no reason for McLaurin to have that many catches. I mean, unless he's running wide open 105 times this season, which maybe he will be because, the other guys are there. So I don't know. I think, and I was kind of put on the spot with that, so my math wasn't great. So I kind of pulled that out of my butt, honestly. So let's say, I'd say in the 50 to 60 catch range and in the 600 to 700 yard. I think it's fair for a rookie. I mean, it'll be a good rookie season. I would love to see it. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't have that much. But I do really like him as a player, so I think he's going to have 150 catches. I just can't say that in public.
Let me say this too. Like I think Diami's going to be more. He's a deep threat, so his yardage is going to come on less catches. So that's number one. Number two, I want to point this out to you. J.D. McKissic had 80 catches last year. His career high prior to that was like 34. I think that's where Diami's catches are coming from. McKissic had that many catches out of necessity, right? Because our wide receivers were absolutely terrible.
Right. That and the QB play was prone to dump it off.
Thank you. And so, Logan Thomas had 75 or something like that catches. It's those catches that are going to come back a little bit, right? Like if McKissic has 80 catches again this year, then something has gone terribly wrong, right? Yeah. I don't think McLaurin's a 100 ball a year kind of number one wide receiver. I think he's a make the most out of the opportunity he gets type of wide receiver, which is why they brought in Curtis Samuel, who's going to, and he's not a 100 catch a guy a year. You know what I mean? Like they're just not that type of wide receiver. And you don't want them to be for durability reasons. Like, we want these guys around for a little while, so they are going to spread the love. But I think Diami going to get his 650 yards on maybe 40, 38, 40 catches, something like that.
35 catches is what I figure for 500 plus yards is where I'd put Diami. Now I do take Eric. I think that you're a little bit off on.
Well, I think
when
you're
it comes
off
to McLaurin and the number of catches they're going to have there. Because if you look at Fitzpatrick, and I know we're talking about how it's going to be a three-headed monster, and that Fitzpatrick's not going to start all 16 games, but he tends to favor one. And if we're looking at the Turner offense, which is something that he's run. That we've seen here in Washington before, they do tend to have like one primo wide receiver and then a couple other strong targets, and I think McLaurin is that receiver who's going to see Fitzpatrick's be that main target for Fitzpatrick, and that's going to be where Turner's going to run most of his offense through. So I do think that you're going to see 90 to 100 catches for McLaurin, possibly even more, depending on the health of Fitzpatrick. And then you're talking that just 80 to 90 for Samuel, which I think would be good to have for the team because that's another dynamic wide receiver. So I think that 180 for the two of them is probably in the right ballpark. I think that's probably right where they would be. And like I said, I think Diami we're looking for him probably for a rookie a good year with about 35 catches for 500 plus yards.
We got to take into account too. There's an extra game this year that we're not really thinking about.
That's true.
So the numbers. You got me on that one.
Oh, did I take I took your thunder?
No. I mean, I forgot about that one. I didn't factor that in. Yeah.
The numbers may go up in that respect. Samuel. I don't know. He's going to get that. Samuel's going to get a lot of touches, but he's going to get a lot of carries, and he's going to get a lot of jet sweep type stuff and pitches. Swing passes. He's going to get a lot of that because he's really good at that. He's almost like a running back. So his catch numbers, I can't really gauge what his catch numbers. 90 seems really high for him. I'm thinking like 60 or 70. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know because again, the extra game throws into it. The new quarterback, throws a lot into it. McLaurin isn't going to have to try really carry that load, but he's also not going to see double coverage every play like he did last year because there are guys that can beat single coverage on the other side now, whereas, that's not really what he had last year. So it'll be an interesting wide receiver group this year.
It will be. It does look like we lost Le, so we won't wait for him to come back. We're going to continue here. Who do we think? How many wide receivers is this team going to keep? And then which are those wide receivers? I think we're pretty locked in on McLaurin, Samuel, and De'Ami Brown. That's 3. How many are they going to keep over that?
I'm liking. I think I will say 5 because that's what a competent roster should have. I don't. But 6. No, you know what? I'm going to go with 6 because I change my mind all the time.
Yeah.
So I think Cam Sims sticks around because he's a special teamer. He's a special teamer. Even if he doesn't, if he's the 5th or 6th wide receiver, it's fine because he plays special teams and he's really good at it. So I do think he has a spot on the team. Adam Humphries they signed. So they signed him as a free agent. I don't think it's that big a deal to lose him as far as the salary cap goes, but I do think he kind of sticks around. And then there's the X factor would be that other receiver if they go with 6. I'm going to go Antonio Gandy Golden would be that only because Ron Rivera drafted him. And I love Kelvin Harmon as a player, but without him being a special teamer and with him not being drafted by this staff and being hurt last year, I think he's got a steep hill to climb to make the roster. And he will be on a roster somewhere because he's really good. He's a very good receiver. He has a lot of potential. So I think he has a home in the NFL. This roster is going to be tough for him. And the guy I like, who I saw a lot of potential in last year, but he hadn't put it all together, was Isaiah Wright. He made some bonehead rookie plays, but he was also an undrafted rookie who had not really been a full-time wide receiver in college. He was kind of like Gibson. He was kind of that hybrid guy, and I liked him last year. He has a lot of explosiveness, a lot of suddenness to his game. He has a lot of, so he might be a practice squad candidate. I wouldn't get rid of him. But yeah, the rest of those guys, I don't know. So if I'm keeping 6, it's going to be Brown, it's going to be Samuel, it's going to be McLaurin, Humphreys, Gandy Golden, and Cam Sims for special teams. But I've been wrong before.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a Dax Milne believer.
Yeah,
that's practice squad. Right.
We can comp him to every little white guy that has played wide receiver in the past 10 years, which is what Ellie and I did last week. We're just kind of like, oh, he could be our Ricky Prohl or our Wes Welker or any of those other guys. But I just you got to see it. Just because you sign that guy doesn't mean he's going to be good. Or just because you drafted him, he just looks like, and the catches he was making, if you watch his highlights, like at BYU, he was just, the passes that he was catching were just dimes. I mean, they were spot on from Zach Wilson. Like, they were almost like undroppable. So I think Wilson probably did more for him than he did for Wilson.
That's fair. Stoner, who how many are you keeping and who are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm keeping 6, and I think those are the exact 6 that I'm keeping as well. Wright, Harmon, Milne. Those are guys looking from the outside in. I don't think they make the squad. It's a numbers game this year. You impressively upgraded that position in the offseason, free agency and the draft. So it's just going to be a numbers game there, and they're just not going to make the squad unless they want to go to practice squad, which some of them probably don't have eligibility. Like I
do wonder on Isaiah Wright's actually, because he got a lot of playing time last year, and so he might not have eligibility based off of his playing time. But I agree. I think there was enough there. If he does have practice squad eligibility, I think Isaiah Wright would be a good fit there. Steve Sims Jr. out of here. Harmon, you mentioned uphill battle. I do want to see more from him. But if it's between him and Gandy Golden was the one that Rivera picked.
That's
so
right.
I think that's where that comes down to. And again, Steve Sims Jr. first person off the team for a lot of fans. A lot of fans think that he's.
I don't know why they haven't released him already and let him go sign somewhere else. It's over. Sorry, dude.
So all right,
that's pretty harsh. I mean, I agree with you, but I mean it's pretty harsh.
It's fairly.
The signing bonus should have been a bus ticket.
That's right.
All right, tight ends. This went from there's nobody on the roster to now everybody's on the roster. How many tight ends are they going to keep? Or am I going to owe Stoner $1 by the end? So I put $1 down saying Sammy Reyes was going to be on the 53-man roster. Is that going to cost me $1 here with the Stoner?
Yeah, yes, I think it is. I think he's practice squad probably. I don't think they keep 4 tight ends.
Right.
And they just drafted a guy. They've got a legit starter, and they just brought in. What's the guy's name they brought in? I don't have it in front of me.
Seals Jones.
Ricky
Yeah,
Seals Jones.
Yeah.
He's had his issues, but when he's on the field, he's proven to be a pretty good tight end. So I think that's your 3. Before they brought him in, Reyes probably had a pretty good chance to hit the roster, but I think they saw Samus Reyes and were kind of like, yeah, we should probably go find somebody else.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
Why Seals Jones. I don't, he's got crazy athleticism, but he's so new to football. And it's another one of those banking on anomaly things. Some guys have done it. Tony Gonzalez did it, but Antonio Gates did it. That doesn't mean everybody can do it because they're a good athlete. There's just a lot to learn in the NFL. And without having experience and then learning how to play a position in the NFL that's got to be tough. So best of luck to him, but I don't see him making the active roster. Now he could be a practice squad guy, but we'll see. So you could see him on the roster this year, depending on how injuries go.
And I'm probably looking a little too deep into what Fitzpatrick said, but when somebody asked Fitzpatrick about Sammy Reyes, and he said that is one of the most impressive human beings I've ever seen. He didn't say that was one of the most impressive tight ends or football players I've ever seen. He just talked about how impressive he looks.
His physique, yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't really give him an endorsement by what he was doing on the field. And like Eric said, you brought in Ricky Seals Jones after that first mini camp and said, oh, okay, we do need some help here, so let's go get somebody.
Yeah, Seals Jones does have a history of not being available to play, though, so we could still see some Reyes action there. The guy Reyes, I can see the impressive human being where that came from. He looks like a comic book character. Like he's crazy built. So I don't know if he's active roster, but I think we may see him on the practice squad.
Yeah, so Thomas Bates impressing in the rookie camps as far as I've heard and seen. So those two seem pretty good. Hemingway is a name that Coach Rivera seems to bring up quite often. Do you have any opinions on Hemingway?
Old Man in the Sea. That's about all I can tell you. I don't even know if that was
wrong Hemingway.
Yeah, wrong Hemingway. Okay. No, I don't know. I don't know enough about him to really comment intelligently. Unfortunately, I've not seen him play. So I'll trust Ron Rivera. If Ron Rivera likes him, then I like him.
Yeah, I like that theory. If Ron Rivera likes him, I like him. I like that. I'm using that.
Okay, you can steal it. I didn't trademark it. Just give me a quarter every time you say it.
All right, so moving along in the roster here, we got our offensive linemen. Some turmoil here recently because of the Moses, dropping off Moses. I don't think anybody was really mad about Christensen leaving the team, but a lot of people vocal about Moses, to include one of our viewers, live listeners today, who loved Moses. I personally was I was lukewarm on Moses. The SILE, I believe that he's a starter in the league, but he's not been picked up. Maybe he's purposely waiting to be picked up, when injuries start coming there. But I don't think losing Moses was as big. I think that'll be interesting to see. And one of the things we mentioned earlier was the anomaly seasons, and so Lucas had a pretty good season last year. Whether or not he can put that again together this year will be seen. But you also had Eric Flowers, who had a great season, got paid in Miami, and now he's here on the cheap through a trade. Are we hoping that this connection with the team can actually help grow? I also think Flowers is a sheriff insurance for next season too. So we'll see how that situation plays out. But Stoner, who do you got starting on the Washington line?
Yeah, no, we've looked at this offensive line, and I don't even think they're finished on the offensive line yet, bringing maybe another guy in or letting a guy go. I don't have a good feel for what Rivera wants to do, because it has been a lot of surprising moves, bringing in guys, drafting guys, letting guys go. So I don't have a really good feel for it, other than what Eric said earlier. If whatever Ron likes for that offensive line, then I like, and we'll have to trust him on that.
Yeah, I would go with that. I don't know. You have not to insult your viewers, but like, you love Moses? Like, love Moses? That's like, I love vanilla ice cream. I love Buicks.
Yeah,
like
right.
I mean, I like Moses as a player, but I mean, it's not. He doesn't move the needle enough that I'll make it. I'm outraged that they got rid of him. And they brought in two guys, and they already have Lucas, so he was a solid player for them, but he's replaceable. He's not the end all be all. And again, it's a youth movement here. I mean, Rivera wants to get young, so he was pushing 30, and he's not. He's probably peaked. He's probably got some good football left in him, and somebody's going to get a nice, good left tackle or right tackle. But I don't know that he's, it's crushing to lose him. It's not, like losing Trent Williams last year. That hurt. That was a big loss because that guy's, top 3 left tackle in the league. Moses is, top half, maybe top 10 right tackle, but not. I mean, if he's top 10, he's number 10. So I don't know. I'm not that big of a. I don't see it as that big of a loss. They've brought in so many guys, I don't even remember. The one thing I did notice, though, is all the guards that they're bringing in all appear to be left guards. I mean, Sheriff is like the only full-time right guy who's consistently played right guard throughout his career that's still on the roster. So if they are bringing in all these guards as Sheriff Insurance, bring in somebody who's actually played on that side, because it's to the outside viewer, it may not seem like a lot, but switching from the left side to the right side is a big deal because you've got muscle memory that is really hard to retrain when you spent your entire career doing one thing and you got to switch to do the same thing to the opposite side. It's like, well, you got to start writing with your left hand today. Go. It's tough. And so we'll see how that goes. I think I like Flowers as a left guard, but we'll see what they do. Sheriff may end up getting traded before the season starts. Who knows?
I think that's a strong possibility. I think something's going to happen before training camp with Sheriff. Either they're going to sign him long term or they're going to trade him. And I have a feeling they're probably going to trade him because of all these guys that they brought in.
I think that'd be very surprising given the tag that he's on is pretty hefty. And so I think that he's just going to wait it out. Sheriff will just play it out and wait for free agency and then sign with the team that he wants. Because I really don't see a team that's going to be willing to give up. And Sheriff is a top 10 guard, possibly top 5, and he ends up on the All-Pro quite often, the All-Pro list quite often. But I don't see anybody giving up draft picks when they know that they can probably just win out in free agency. So
especially at $18 million.
Yeah,
that is a hefty price
for a guard. You're paying tackle money for a guard. Now, again, top 5 in his position, according to the people who pick all pros. But that's a little pricey. Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. Do you think Cosme ends up starting at right tackle?
So I said earlier on, I don't know that he's a day one starter, but that was before they got rid of Moses. If he's not ready, Lucas can slide over because Lucas has historically been a swing tackle, and he's actually spent most of his career as a right tackle. So I think he's a nice alternative if Cosme isn't ready, but I think the plan is probably for Cosme to start.
That'll be interesting. So Cosme, Flowers, Leno, Leonard Martin, Sheriff, Schweitzer. We got Roulier and Ishmael for centers. Charles is a name that we haven't mentioned here. Are they going to continue grooming him? Sadiq Charles is somebody who a lot of fans think as of a tackle, but then you get John Keim and a couple others who push him more in the guard range. Where do you think he ends up?
Yeah, so his only start last year came at left guard. He lasted like a play, but yeah, I mean it's another tackle. I see them making him a guard, but he can play tackle in a pinch. But I think his future is probably a guard. And he may end up being your Sheriff Insurance, since he doesn't really have a lot of time spent on either side. And he played right side on the right tackle a lot in college before sliding over to the left. So he's got some more fresh muscle memory for playing on the right side, even if it was at tackle. So he could be the guy that ends up replacing Sheriff. But yeah, I definitely, I don't think they're giving up on him after 1 year, but he's got to stay healthy.
Sounds good. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball with the stout defensive line that the Washington football team has. An embarrassment of riches. First round picks across the board. I don't think there's any question that Young, Payne, Allen, and Sweat are the starting 4 on the line. Who else is in the mix there? We got Matt Ionitis back. That's I personally am very excited to see him back in playing status. I think that he really helps out the defense. But what about some of these other guys we have here in Burgundy and Gold?
Well, let's not forget about Tim Settle for sure. He's a high rotation guy. I like James Smith Williams a lot. He showed a lot last year. I think he was a 7th rounder last year. He was pretty good. But before we get into that, I do have a question about the OTAs and the defensive line. And we all know that there was only 4 guys missing, right? And 2 of them were Sweat and Young, Montez and Chase. And everybody seems to be giving them a pass of them not being there. And I don't understand why we're giving them a pass. First of all, why weren't they there? I know they don't have to be, but why weren't they there? And why are we giving them a pass on this? Nobody else got a pass. Everyone else was there, so they didn't have to. They can't say, well, we're working out on our own. We're doing our own thing. We're getting ready. Don't worry about us. I'm a little bit concerned about that. Why are we giving them a pass?
Well, I think that we'll give them a pass until they don't show up this year. If they're not very good to start the year, or they're injured early on in the year, they get injured in camp because they're not in shape, then we can start asking questions. Personally, none of them have done anything to make me think that they're not going to be ready based on how they came in last year. The other 2 guys that were out, Leno, I think just had a kid.
Right.
Which, okay, fine. You had a kid. Whatever.
Right.
You may have more, probably. You may have other ones, but whatever. You want to, no, it's fine.
Be
there. You have a kid, you can stay home. That's free pass. Steven Sims, I don't know what he's doing. If he's trying to make the team, he should really be there. Young and Sweat.
That seems like a poor decision right there.
Yeah, I don't know. He's got to probably do everything he can to be there, but I don't know what he had going on. I don't know I think Young was hosting some show on the NFL Network this week. That might have been part of it. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't like it.
He's got other, hey, he's if he comes out and he stinks up the joint this year, we can come back and point to it. But based on the way he played last year, and his overall work ethic, and the same with Sweat. I mean, those guys are just dominant when they're in the game. If they're anything less this year, we can question that. But outside of that, I'm not a big, proponent of guys. I don't read a lot into stuff like that at this time of year. There doesn't seem to be any kind of animosity. The coaches didn't seem to be too upset about it. There was no kind of veiled language when they were talking. It was just like, yeah, they're not here. I know where they're at. We'll see them next week, or we'll see when they get here, whenever. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm not reading into it. I'm not raising alarm bells just yet. But if they don't show up for mandatory camp in a couple of weeks, or if they don't show up for training camp, then there's a problem. But we shall see.
Who do you like also of the rookies? The 2 7th-rounders that they picked up, defensive ends. Help me, Shaka Toney and Bradley King.
King.
William Bradley King. William Bradley King he seems like he's got a Ryan Anderson vibe to me, whereas he's not overly athletic, but he gets to the quarterback and he makes plays based on effort. I think he's a little bit of a better athlete than what Ryan Anderson was. So there could be something there. Shaka Toney is interesting because he's kind of undersized for an edge rusher. He's only like 240. I don't know how that translates to the NFL game. I don't know how many really good edge rushers are that size. And I kind of thought maybe a move to like Sam linebacker or Will linebacker might be in the cards for him as a backup if the edge rusher thing doesn't go out. It's one of those things that if like the coaches see the potential, like he's one of those, we got to get our best athletes on the field, and he's one of the best athletes, they'll find a way to get him out there, be it at edge rusher or wherever else. So I think I would honestly give Toney the edge over Bradley King because I think you've got Smith Williams gives you what Bradley King would give you, whereas Shaka Toney's probably something a little different, probably got a little bit more speed coming off the edge, as a young player. So we'll see. One of them ends up on the roster. One of them ends up on the practice squad. I don't know which is which just yet. It's interesting, though, when you watch the Sam Cosmi highlights in college, one of the gaffes on him is him giving up a sack to Bradley King. I thought that was pretty cool.
Right.
He's getting beat by Bradley King, and now they're on the same team.
Yeah.
That's probably why Washington picked him up, because they were watching a lot of Cosmi film, and they're like, whoa, okay, he got beat here. Let's see this. I think Bradley King can make the roster on the line, but I think Toney needs to make the roster as a linebacker. I think that's going to be the big thing, and see how he can make that transition. You mentioned his size. He's not as big, but he is fast. He definitely has a lot of athleticism to him, as most of the draft class this year did. So you saw that in Rivera's in the Marty plan was like, hey, let's get somebody who's physically gifted, and Tony is there. Bradley King has some pretty respectable stats too. It'll be interesting. Bradley King, if he doesn't make it, is an easy stash for the practice squad. And Tony, like I said, I think needs to make it as a linebacker. I think that's where you'll see his there. And since we're talking about those linebackers, let's move on to them. Any surprises from these cuts? This is probably the weakest. Not probably, is the weakest group of this defense. But Jamin Davis, big addition, first round pick, number 19 for Washington. Holcomb, Hudson, Bostic, all in the mix here. Who do you think's sticking around, Stoner, at the end of the day for this 53-man roster?
All those guys you just mentioned, and maybe even there's the other linebacker. I can't even remember his name. Just a backup guy.
Mayo, Phillips, Norris, one of those guys.
Yeah, one of those guys. But there's a 1 billion% chance that they're bringing in another linebacker at some point. After the June 1st cuts, somebody becomes available. They're bringing in another linebacker. There's no way you can go into the regular season with this linebacking crew. No way.
No one wants Bostic as a starter.
Interesting.
Yeah, 1 billion%.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
We were talking to Robert Henson a few weeks ago, and he kind of broke it down for us because I questioned because a lot of the coaches love Bostic and the fans hate Bostic. And he basically said that Bostic does everything you need him to do. You can rely on him. He's going to be in the right place. He just doesn't make splash plays. Mm-hmm. So he's not going to be an interception, fumble return for a touchdown guy. He's not going to be that guy, but he's going to get the defense set, and he's going to get everybody in the right spot, and he's going to make the tackle when he needs to make the tackle. He's going to go to the right spot. He's going to make sure everybody else goes to the right spot. There's definitely a spot for him on the team. Now, I think he starts out the year at middle linebacker, Davis at the Sam linebacker, which I like because that allows Cole Holcomb to go to weak side and not have to deal with tight ends, which I think will help him immensely because his pass coverage skills have struggled. But I think eventually, if everything works out, that Davis will supplant Bostic as the middle linebacker, which, again, I don't know who goes to strong side at that point. So that could be you're bringing another linebacker guy.
That's the guy they bring in, right?
Bostic is his natural position is really a will. Holcomb's natural position is a will. Davis, by all accounts, can play wherever you put him. So we'll have to see. But I don't know that there's a legit Sam on the team that can handle the tight ends outside of Davis. And if it comes to that, and if they don't bring another guy in, maybe Davis stays there all season.
I think it will be interesting. I do hate on Bostic quite a bit. I don't disagree that he gets to where he needs to go. I just think that he's there a step late is the thing, and I don't think as he gets older that's going to change. So hopefully he can be a little bit more cerebral and be there before he needs to be there. So we'll see how that pans out. I do think that he starts for the team. I just don't think they have many other options is the problem, and that's why we're talking about possibly bringing somebody in based off the cuts. But if we're picking up the scrap heaps of somebody else's team, I don't think that's really too much of an improvement over what they have right now. So we'll see. I mean, there are some bottom rung guys here that make that a little bit interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to our DBs. We can split this up between the defensive backs and the safeties. But I think there's going to be a lot of moving back and forth here between some. And I don't have the complete list written out in front of me, but you got guys who like Greg Stroman and Jimmy Moreland, who fans seem to like. He's the people's corner, Jimmy Moreland. We got new additions, Bobby McCain, who you're obviously going to see more in the safety role. Danny Johnson was a name they brought on. And then you got starters, Kendall Fuller, William Jackson III, starting out on the outside. Where do we fill in the rest of these places that for the team? We'll list off some of the safeties as well, that the straight safeties, people that I hope are cut. Troy Apke will hope that he doesn't make the team. But then you got interesting people in Derek Forrest. Everett, again, a lot of people like to put him on the team. Cam Curl, excellent pickup for Washington last season. Landon Collins coming back, hopefully healthy. He did have a serious injury. A lot of people want to put him at linebacker, which he scoffs and laughs at. So where are we sticking this roster? Because we even have young talents like the new kid, Juiced, who just picked off a pass, essentially ripped the ball away from your number one receiver, McLaurin.
Yeah, I like Ellie and I have had some back and forth on this about where the corners stack up, but what I see is a shift in philosophy at the corner position, and you see it with bringing in Jackson and with St. Juste. Is Del Rio, Jack Del Rio, defensive coordinator in previous stops, has always had tall, lanky, long corners that play press man coverage, which is exactly what what William Jackson and St. Juste are. They're very 6'2", 6'3", crazy wingspan, really agile corners. I think that we're going to see that. And those two guys, the hope is for those two to be the starters on the outside. I think Jackson's pretty much a given. He's going to start. If St. Juste can show enough, I think he's the starting outside corner on the other side, opposite of Jackson. Kendall Fuller's best work in his career has been as a slot corner. And I think it's a natural, just move him over there, let him play that slot role. He does it really well. I think he was good in Rivera's cover 3 scheme last year because he's really great with his eyes and he can really make he's really good at reacting to what he sees. He can read. So he was good in that scheme, but I think if they're going to go more press coverage, that doesn't really fit him. So I see him playing that slot role. He's an ideal for that. So you've got 3 really good, if St. Juste works out, you've got the makings of a really good top 3 corners. Danny Johnson, I like as a special teams player, so I think there's a role for him. He's done some kick returns. He's a good gunner. Jimmy Moreland probably may or may not have a spot. I'm not as high on him as some people are. I think he's been fun to watch, but he's replaceable. I think you can beat him. And with Fuller sliding over to the slot, I think that's going to be it. Stroman is a special teams guy, another one, but is there a role for him with all these other guys now? We'll see. He wasn't brought in by this coaching staff. Apke, he's getting his last shot at corner right now. I don't think he brings, other than he's fast. So he's got that, but he can bring that to special teams, but I don't think he beats out a Deshays or Everett based on special teams play. That'd be the only thing that keeps him on the team at this point, is if he's a good enough special teamer. And I think there's guys that can replace him. Safety, we'll see. Landon Collins doesn't want to play linebacker, so my suggestion is be like, yeah, you're totally a safety, but go down here and play 3 yards off the ball and cover that tight end.
Right. That's
but
exactly
you're a safety.
Yeah, exactly right. You're a safety, but get up on the line.
Yeah, get up on the line. You play
Like
safety up there.
Which is where he's comfortable anyways, right? Because he is a strong safety. This is a guy who's a better box safety than he is in coverage. And so I wouldn't necessarily put him up there on the line to cover tight ends. I would put him on the line to go ahead and bump that tight end and then throw him over to like Jimmy Moreland or Kendall Fuller, as you mentioned, like getting in coverage, because Landon Collins in coverage does scare me a little bit. I think that he, over the years, his coverage skills haven't improved and the way that you'd want to see it, but he's a great box safety. But that puts him at odds with Cam Curl, who is also somebody whose strong point is playing in the box. Now, Cam Curl, I think, showed us a lot more when it came to coverage skills, but that was also this is a young guy drafted in the 7th round, and we've been burnt, trusting 7th rounders for more than a season or 2 at a time. So I think it'll be interesting to see how Cam Curl goes, and I think that, like you mentioned, Deshays or Everett is going to make the team just based off of his special teams play.
And he can play safety. Like Everett has stepped up to play safety every time and done fine. So I don't think you don't lose much with him playing that third safety. Bobby McCain, he's your free safety. I think he's the only real true free safety on the team, because Apke sure ain't. And the kid that they drafted out of Cincinnati,
Derek Forrest. He's
another like Cam Curl type player. So I don't know where he fits, but that's Jack Del Rio's
practice squad. That's where he fits.
They drafted him. That's high for a 4th round pick. Is
for
you kind of want him on the back of your rosters. But but we'll see. It's Jack Del Rio's problem, not mine. So I think he makes it.
Hashtag just a fan.
Don't count out Jeremy Reeves.
I do like Jeremy.
That's true. Jeremy Reeves is a name we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, I like him, and I think he's got a place.
And he's a free safety too. He's actually a guy who played that center field role.
So don't count him out on the roster. But you're going to have a numbers crunch. All these guys. I think if we counted up all the guys we got on the roster, we probably got like 65 guys on the roster.
Yeah, I don't think we hit 53 today. Yeah, I don't think we hit 53 today.
Yeah, that's right. COVID rules.
So, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. We appreciate Eric coming on with us. We are going to hit the post game where Eric is going to get to enjoy a rant from our very own Stoner on our Washington Capitals, and maybe we'll see LE back. I'm not sure if he's pinged one of you guys, but we'll see here in the post game. Welcome to the post game, Stoner. You are not happy with our Washington Capitals, so I'm just gonna step back, relax in the chair a little bit, and let's see what you have, because you promised us a rant, and Eric, I know you've listened to a couple of our shows at least before coming on here, so now you get to see it in person. See what
popcorn's ready.
Really
let's do it.
Well, I'm not going to go on too long because it's been a week now, and I've been able to kind of get some sleep and kind of process a little bit. But, man, when they lost Game 5 and got humiliated in those last couple of games, I was ticked off. But then you kind of do the postmortem, and you look at everything that happened towards the end of the year. Man, they had a lot of injuries, right? Eller was hurt. Oshie was hurt. Ovi was hurt. Carlson was hurt. All these guys were hurting. But what really ticked me off was the position that Kuznetsov and Samsonov put this entire organization in. By whatever went down, Kuznetsov said he got COVID for the second time and he's vaccinated. I have a hard time believing all of that, but that could be true. We're not COVID experts here. We're not doctors. But, man, they put this team in such a bad position at the end of the year. I'm ready to let Kuzi go. Samsonov, I'm not ready to let him go. He's the goaltender of the future. But
what about Tom Wilson? We got friend of the show watching live right now. John Archquette says, "Cut Tom Wilson."
He's just a Tom Wilson hater.
Go away.
Yeah, tell John Archquette, whoever that is. No,
we'll cut you, John.
Yeah, John.
Cut you from the whatever you're in right now.
Tom Wilson is fantastic. Yeah, he can be a little on the edge, but he didn't get suspended for that last one. Why? Because NHL doesn't care about fighting. You can do pretty much anything when you're fighting. Just don't do any head hunting during the course of the game. But Tom Wilson's a keeper. But what they're dealing with now is off of the Stanley Cup in 2018, and then you had to start signing guys, and you've got all these big contracts, and that's going to hamper them from being able to sign a bunch of other guys that's going to make this roster better. You're going to sign Ovi in the offseason. I don't know how much you're going to sign him for, but he's going to get a big chunk. And you've got Backstrom with a big chunk, Oshie with a big chunk, Kuznetsov, and Carlson. All these guys get paid a lot of money, even Orlov. And so this is just where we're going to be for the next couple of years. We haven't won a playoff series since the Stanley Cup. 3 straight exits in the first round. And although it really bothered me what happened at the end of the year, I do kind of look back on it and I say, okay, look, we won the Cup in 2018, and this is pretty much what happens after you win the Cup. They had too many big contracts that they're not going to be able to stay. They're not going to be able to stay at the top of the game throughout the rest of the time. So we're just going to have to live with it. At some point, they're going to have to just dump everything and start all over. But I have calmed down since
that's a pretty mild. I apologize for our listeners and Eric. I was
here for a rant. I was really expecting.
You're apologizing for them at this point.
Broadcast news type stuff. Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, I do, because of the injuries. And guys were playing out of position. Oshie was playing center because Lars Eller couldn't go. Backstrom was hurt. Oshie was hurt. All these guys were saying, we wouldn't have played if this was the regular season, but it's the playoffs. And if you're not at 100%, you're going to get beat by a good team like Boston. Yeah. That's just
well. Here's the thing with the names that you mentioned here. This is an aging team.
Oh,
and so and that's the problem.
Yeah,
and that's a big problem for Washington Capitals because you mentioned you're going to sign people like Ovi, who absolutely he's a Hall of Famer. He's we've talked about Backstrom being a Hall of Fame player by the time his career is over. I think TJ Oshie is not a Hall of Famer, but he's a darn good player. But all these players here are on the back end of their careers, and they're going to be injured. You're going to see this again. This by the end of next season, a full season.
The expansion draft is going to be the Capitals' saving grace this year. I think they're going to be able to lose one of their core guys and not get the blame from the fan base because they can't protect everybody. So somebody like an Oshie or Kuznetsov or somebody like that could end up, a Kraken, which is an awesome name, by the way.
That's right.
It is a strong name.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna allow Oshie to be exposed.
You don't think so?
No, Kuznetsov they will, and if they let him go, fine, whatever. He hasn't lived up to what he's supposed to be. But yeah, this is an aging team. Ovi can have whatever contract he wants. Whatever he asks for, you're going to give it to him, right? You can't let him go onto another team for the last 3 or 4 years of his career. You just can't do that. But knowing
can't you, though? I mean, you really could.
Can't. No. You cannot. You absolutely cannot.
It would be sickening.
It would hurt. It would hurt. For the fan base.
See him get a shot at Gretzky's record wearing, like a Canucks jersey or something. Come on, You
can't do it. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to cause you to not be able to sign other guys because he's going to get such a big contract. That's just the way it's going to be. You have to protect the legacy of Ovi and the Capitals organization, and that might cost you a couple of years of rebuild, and it's going to cost you a couple more first round or maybe second round exits. But you absolutely, whatever he asks for, whatever he wants, and he's got to know also, look, if you're going to break the bank, then we're not going to be able to sign other guys. But if you take a little bit less, then maybe we'll be able to sign and give you help. But no, you absolutely give him whatever he asks for, and he stays here until the end, until he breaks the record. Then he can go to Russia, and he can collect all of his big money.
John continues to chirp on our live chat here. He said the Vegas Knights will take him.
Of course they will.
In all seriousness, though, he did ask. John had a good question for us. So, who do the Capitals protect in the expansion draft? So, you mentioned a couple. This is an area where they could, let Oshie go and risk him, so that way they don't get
how many can they
too
protect?
Much by the fans.
I don't actually know the rule on this.
They can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goalie, or they can protect 8 skaters and a goalie. Like, you can do all forwards if you want, but then you only get 8. So essentially, you're going to do 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a goalie. They're protecting Samsonov. So get that. That's the only guy they're going to protect.
Ovechkin, Backstrom, Carlson, they'll protect them. Probably Wilson.
Yeah,
much to John's chagrin.
Oshie, I think Oshie.
Interesting. What is Orlov? Do you protect Orlov or do you let him get exposed? Because you risk losing him because he's been pretty good, but he's not probably. He may be expendable, and he's a little pricey too. So interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting who they do protect, and that's coming up pretty quick. That's coming in early July, and also they have to take one off of every team. Except for Vegas, I believe, because Vegas is so new, they don't have to expose guys.
Yeah, they've already been in the finals, so
right, and maybe again this year.
Yeah,
but you have to lose a guy, so somebody is going to get plucked off the roster, whoever of those who are going to get exposed, and it's only one, but it is one. It's not like, oh, good, they didn't take any of our guys; they took 2 from another team. No, they're going to lose somebody, and there's going to be a little bit of an uproar.
So maybe your punishment for Kuznetsov is to leave him exposed and see if they take him. If they take him, they take him, and if they don't, maybe it's a message to him: get your act together.
And they can take that salary with him too. I mean, he's got a huge salary. But Ovechkin's not going to be. He's not going to be protected because he's a free agent. Okay, so they don't have to put him on the list. So let's just say, for example, the Kraken say, okay, Ovechkin is not protected. We're taking him. Well, he's a free agent. He can then turn around and sign a contract back with the Capitals, and they lose him. So that's why he hasn't signed a contract yet, by the way, because they're just waiting for after the draft.
Wait for that, so that way they can essentially keep protect another player.
Exactly. So he's not actually on that list, but there's no way they're losing him. If they lose him, for any reason, free agency.
It'll sting, yeah.
Yeah, it'll sting, and no way I want to see him break.
Well, maybe then we can get the rant that was promised to Eric and our listeners.
There are certain guys that
it'll be akin to like seeing Art Monk in a Jets jersey.
Yeah,
that was the worst.
That was stuff like that. That can't happen. You can't let that
Jordan
happen.
as a Wizard. Nobody wants to see that.
No, not even Wizards fans.
Yep, that awful teal jersey.
Well, it's a good thing you're hockey, Stoner. At least you're able to talk your way through the non-rant that was promised. But
sorry, I chilled out on a little bit.
No, we'll have to catch you next time, a little bit closer to it. We probably won't need a rant for our Washington Wizards, who will likely be swept out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
But hey, then we might have some quick rejoicing. Is there a Black Monday for basketball? I don't think there is, because
if they retain Brooks, then you'll get your rant.
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
this is correct. And that can simmer for like 3 or 4 weeks. I'll still have the vitriol and vile for him weeks later if they retain him, for sure.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us. Eric, thank you for joining us. So you hail from the WFT Declassified podcast because your buddy had to drop out here. He's just a Skype box visually for our people out here on YouTube. Go ahead and let us know, where we can listen to Declassified and what you guys are about.
Yeah, so the Washington Football Team Declassified, WFT, is available on all of your major podcast networks, Apple, Amazon, all of them. You can also say, Alexa, play WFT Declassified, and apparently that works. I fear the government, so I don't have an Alexa.
Right.
But yeah, I'm told that works as well. You can catch us on Twitter at Declassified WFT. At Declassified WFT. You can also get me on Twitter, ETROD42. I provide nothing of value. I am the John Oates of the podcast. Ellie does all the work. He's the talent. But yeah, you can give me a follow if you want to. Get me up to 31 subscribers. That'd be awesome. But yeah, we're here, and we enjoy being here. Ellie had some technical difficulties at home. He was texting me. So he is sorry that he can't make it to the end of the show, but we appreciate you guys having us on.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys coming on. This was pretty awesome. I like the camaraderie of all the different Washington Football Team podcasts in the area. There's kind of like a brotherhood, even though we all don't know each other. It's not cutthroat, so it's nice. And thanks a ton to both you and Ellie for coming on.
And we know each other now, so
we do.
Brotherhood.
We'll have to catch some of the games. Actual football games together and do some more stuff here. So again, thank you for our WFT Declassified friends, Eric and Ellie, for coming out. This has been Ref the District. You can catch us on Twitter at Ref the District. We stream on YouTube every weekend, Sundays at 10 a.m. We're also on your favorite podcast networks. We're not yet on Google, actually, but we are on Amazon. You can go ahead and ask Alexa to play the podcast Ref the District. You can catch us on Apple iTunes. Go ahead and leave us a comment and rate us. That does help people recognize that the podcast is out there, and you can also listen to us on Spotify. I'm Nathan Perry. He's the Stoner. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. You guys have a great night.